My name is King, and I'm an Overwatch esports caster.
No! You're pushing! You need to turn! You need to turn! There is a nuke going off behind you!
The Overwatch Champions Series Stage 1 playoffs have just wrapped up in all of the regions, and we now know all the teams that have qualified to the first LAN event of the year, the Champions Clash in Tokyo. Today, I will be going over all of the teams from all of the regions, and I will be giving you my thoughts on how each of them fare in the fight for the first trophy of 2026.
So let's get into it!
For this year's Champions Clash, there are 2 LAN slots per region. Well, at least in theory. There are 2 slots for EMEA, NA, China, and 2 for Asia. What does Asia mean in this context? It means 2 teams out of all the sub-regions of Asia, so Korea, Japan, and Pacific. The 2 slots are awarded to the top 2 teams in the Overwatch Champions Series 2026 Asia Stage 1 tournament. This is basically the same system that was in place for some previous LANs, and generally it has one major flaw, and the reason it's a bad way of deciding who qualifies to the event. Korea is too good. This format has previously always led to the Korean teams dominating the teams from Japan and Pacific. In the case of the current LAN, this format is especially hurtful, since it literally takes place in Japan, and the Japanese fans would really love to see their local teams play. For example, Varul have a big following in Japan, and they are by no means a bad team, but from the get-go, it just seems like their chances of beating Korean juggernauts are quite low. This time, it looks like they might genuinely have a chance after beating Crazy Raccoon 2-1 in the group stage and advancing to the playoffs over Team Falcons and going to a map 5 against Zeta Division in their first playoff game. But then, in the end, it came down to Crazy Raccoon and Zeta Division in the grand finals. And let me tell you, this match was possibly the best match of Overwatch I have ever watched. It started with Crazy Raccoon dominantly winning the first 2 maps, but then Zeta took the next 2. Crazy Raccoon were able to get to match point after flattening Zeta on Survasa. Zeta picked Oasis and lost the first control point, and then CR proceeded to get to 99% on City Center. In the OT fight, Knife killed 4 people, which allowed Zeta to win the control point and finish the map on University as well. CR took them to Gibraltar, but on their attack, they couldn't finish the map in time, and the payload was a couple meters short of completion. On their defense, they were able to burn through Zeta's clock and left them with a minute on the last stretch, but Zeta used the ults they had to their full potential and won the teamfight and the entire game. 7 maps for free for Zeta Division and their first ever regional trophy as well as their first LAN qualification. This is the game I love. This is Overwatch. And here are all the other teams from the other regions that have qualified to the Champions Clash. In EMEA, the Twisted Minds unsurprisingly became the champions and continue to stay hot after winning both last year's OWCS World Finals and this year's preseason bootcamp. The other team that qualified from EMEA are Vertex Pro. In their first playoff match, they fell 3-2 to GK Esports, but when they met again in the lower bracket final, it was Vertex that came out with a 3-1 win and secured their spot at the Tokyo Champions Clash. In North America, it was Dallas Fuel that sat on the throne as the region's champions. They had a perfect stage 1 in which they didn't lose a single match in the group stage and went flawless in the playoffs as well. The second team that qualified was Space Station Gaming. They dominantly beat Team Liquid 3-0 in the qualification match to the LAN. What hurts their seeding for the LAN bracket is the fact that they lost 4-1 in the grand finals against Dallas Fuel. In general, the gap between the Fuel and the other teams from North America is quite large, but that's a topic for another video. And finally, we have China. Unsurprisingly, Weibo Gaming continues their reign as the best team in the region after beating All Gamers 4-1 in the finals. To move on to the finals and thus qualify to the LAN, All Gamers had to win against JD Gaming in the lower bracket final. It was an incredibly close 5-map nail-biter of a series, but in the end, it was AG that took home the victory and punched their ticket to Tokyo. But before we start making our predictions, we should discuss the recent balance changes. These changes may shake up the meta drastically, which is a pain in the ass for me because it makes creating this video a lot harder, because it's hard to predict which teams will be good, but I will try my best. So, to not get too derailed, I will only be focusing on those most substantial changes. First off, D.Va nerf! I know this may not seem that impactful at first sight, but her micro missiles, paired with the impact damage from her boosters, created a deadly combo with very powerful burst damage. This nerf does make it harder to execute these combos, so D.Va did slightly go down in lethality now. It's hard to tell if this will have a big impact on her position in the meta, but even if it doesn't, it will likely let other tanks shine a bit more. Second, a nerf to Lucio Kiriko. Lucio received a major nerf to his sound barrier. The duration of the ultimate got shortened by 1 second, and the overhealth he receives and grants his teammates has been reduced from 750 to 625, a whole 125 overhealth less. Another change that hurts Lucio is a bug fix made in the same patch. This bug allowed Lucio to stay alive for a longer time under pressure and be more aggressive. Obviously, it's not a bad thing they fixed this, but it does make Lucio worse. Kiriko also got nerfed, and it's a change that a lot of people might be very happy about. Kiriko's Suzu no longer heals. Its previous 30 healing allowed Kiriko to quickly top up her teammates and easily save them with no real counterplay. This change might impact how often she's used to a pretty significant extent. The changes to Lucio are also quite impactful. Lucio is used with Kiriko because he is the best main support for a rush/brawl comp that she excels in. These two nerfs combined might, after like a really long time, make Lucio Kiri not the best support backline in the game. And what helps it more is the fact that the duo of Jetpack Cat and Bastion didn't get nerfed in any way. These two scoundrels wreaked havoc during the Asia tournament, and it's basically been the main focus of the most recent meta. If Lucio Kiri got nerfed, and Cat didn't, well, it seems like we're just gonna be seeing more feline-assisted artillery barrages. So, now we can go ahead and place our bets on how each of these teams will perform on the big stage. We have to remember that to an extent, we can't predict what kind of brand of Overwatch we're even going to be playing in Tokyo due to the balance changes, but I will try my best to put these teams in order based on how likely they are to win the event. So, to start off, number 8, the team with the worst odds of winning Champions Clash is All Gamers. If we take a look at the bracket, we can see that in their first match, they will be facing Twisted Minds. I don't think I even need to say too much. Honestly, if they win more than 14 fights, I will be impressed. And in the lower bracket, it's not looking better for them, because the two teams that they could face in their first lower bracket match are either Dallas Fuel or Crazy Raccoon. I think Dallas Fuel are more likely of the two, but either or, it's looking like an almost impossible task. The Fuel absolutely dominated in their own region, both during the group stage as well as the playoffs, and Crazy Raccoon are the second best team in Korea, which is the historically best region in Overwatch esports history, and they're also one of the best teams in OWCS history. Yeah, they're just not winning anything, dude. I don't think I can find any kind of silver lining. The second worst team at Champions Clash will also be getting knocked out on the first day of the tournament, and I believe that would be Space Station Gaming. In the round 1 match, they have one of the toughest tasks. That is beating Zeta Division. Zeta just seems too good in this meta to let that happen. They have been one of the best, if not the best teams at executing Cat Bastion plays, and their support duo of Shu and Violet has basically created its own kind of backline with Ana and Iliari, and these two players are both said to be the best players on those characters. It feels like their victory over SSG is inevitable. And in their first lower bracket match, SSG will be facing either Weibo Gaming or Virtus Pro. More likely Weibo. Virtus are looking comfortable in this meta, and I don't see them losing to Weibo, so them and SSG meeting in the lower bracket seems likely. I have Weibo as favorites, but there is a world in which SSG can upset. But for that to happen, everybody on the team would have to have a really good day, or the meta would have to get really wild in comparison to what we had previously. Every team from here on out will have at least one win under their belt, so this is where things get a bit harder. That being said, on number 6, I have put Weibo Gaming. The taste of victory over SSG is sweet, but it's short-lived. In the upper bracket, Zeta and Virtus will meet in match number 8. Here, I expect Zeta to win, and it shouldn't be too much of a challenge for them. At the very most, I can see Virtus get a map win on Control, because Zeta can be known to have a bit of a slow burn at the start of matches, but from there on out, it should be all Zeta. For Weibo, facing their past opponents yet again in the lower bracket will be a big challenge that I don't think they can succeed in. I think that the only chances they have are the morale of Virtus being low after a loss to Zeta, or them figuring out how to play against them after their first matchup, but it just seems way too unlikely for me. This next team will be in a very similar situation to Weibo. At number 5, I am putting the Dallas Fuel. They will probably easily beat AG in their first lower bracket match, but the two teams they could either be facing in the second are Twisted Minds and Crazy Raccoon. Crazy Raccoon is the team that would have knocked them into the lower bracket, and since of course Twisted Minds are the world champions and still look like the best team in the world, they will also win their match 7 matchup against Crazy Raccoon. So for two separate teams, it feels like the team that they meet twice is the one that will eliminate them from the tournament. Of course, similar to the case of Weibo, there's a chance that they win thanks to the experience they gain from their first matchup against CR. Do I think that will happen though? No. Okay, so we are about halfway through the bracket, so it's important to consider all the matches again. In the upper bracket final, I have put Zeta Division and Twisted Minds. In the lower bracket, the next match is Crazy Raccoon versus Virtus Pro. These are now some of the hardest matches to predict, so let's get back to the basics. The thing that is dictating the current meta is the Cat Bastion character combo. The teams that have shown to be the best at this combo so far have only been the Korean teams, that is Zeta and Crazy Raccoon, because the meta arose when EMEA and NA Stage 1 had already finished. But even if the EMEA teams, like TM and Virtus Pro, might be worse at this comp, which we can't really know, they have a way of dealing with it that might prove to be very effective. Yubi, the Flags DPS player for Twisted Minds, currently residing on the bench, has recently talked about creating a DPS duo that specializes in shutting down Cat Bastion. The two characters are Symmetra and Soldier. Symmetra is still a good character, even though her popularity has dropped since last year's World Finals. For a while now, there have been attempts to make Soldier effective in pro play from multiple hitscan players, and up until this point, it has basically never worked. But against two flying targets, it seems like it might actually have a place in the real composition. I don't want to go too deep into the topic of this comp, so if you're interested, I recommend watching the video OWC made on it. I think that the team that can benefit the most from this style of play is the Twisted Minds. On their roster, they have Yubi, who is one of the best, if not the best Symmetra player, and the team knows how to synergize with this character on an elite level. Yubi hasn't played in quite a bit, and would need to get a bit of warm-up, but he might be the ace up their sleeve TM need to win the Champions Clash. The team that won't benefit from it nearly as much is Virtus Pro. Virtus is a team with really good players, but there are some things that make me believe they could prove clunky in the long run. One of those things is the fact that they are a 5-man roster. Psycho, their Flags DPS, is a great player, but isn't exactly known for many heroes other than Tracer. In a situation like this, it would make the most sense for the team to pick up another Flags DPS with a larger hero pool to sub in for the Tracer player, after they have played on the maps where she is the best and most popular pick. If Symmetra is indeed the best option against Cat Bastion, then Virtus might either struggle while playing it, or choose completely against picking her, which could have tragic results. Considering all that I just said, I have decided that at number 4, I will be placing Virtus Pro. In the lower bracket match, they will be facing Crazy Raccoon, who are looking like one of the better teams in the world in the current meta. They placed second in Asia qualifiers, but went to 7 maps against Zeta Division, so the gap between these teams is not too big. Their experience of playing with and against Cat Bastion will give them the edge in this series, which means that Virtus Pro will be knocked out and will place 4th in the Champions Clash. This is where it truly gets difficult. In the upper bracket final, Zeta Division will face Twisted Minds. Twisted Minds is widely believed to be the best team in the world, and in the current meta, they don't seem to be quaking in their form too much. But will the momentum that Zeta got in the Asia playoffs and their great Cat Bastion play be enough to beat the defending OWCS champs? Whichever it is, it will be a big challenge for Crazy Raccoon, that are waiting for one of these teams so that they can battle it out with them in the lower bracket final. I think that the safest pick is still Twisted Minds winning, which makes the lower bracket final a rematch from the Asia Grand Finals. Crazy Raccoon versus Zeta Division. Here, I'm confident to pick Zeta as the victors, which makes Crazy Raccoon the 3rd best team at Champions Clash. So, this is what it's all led up to. The Grand Finals of the 2026 Champions Clash in Tokyo. 2 teams, Twisted Minds. The defending champions of 2025, a juggernaut out of EMEA trying to become the first European dynasty in Overwatch history, and Zeta Division, a team for which this is the first LAN ever after 2 years full of disappointment and struggle in OWCS. Both of these teams eyeing the first major trophy of 2026. Which one will triumph? I am placing my bet on the Twisted Minds. This was the most difficult choice out of all of the ones in this video, but I believe that this specific grand final could be an incredibly close and back and forth series. But in the end, I believe that TM will be able to successfully counter the Cat Bastion combo of Zeta, and that their previous dominance will provide them with the confidence they need to perform where it matters most. With this victory, they will raise the first trophy of 2026 and become the first EMEA team in Overwatch esports history to win 2 majors in a row. And with that, I have concluded my predictions for the 2026 Champions Clash in Tokyo. thank you for tuning in. This may be a long one, and now at the time of finishing my script I am starting to realize that, but I hope that nevertheless, you will enjoy watching the video as much as I enjoyed making it. Hope you have a good day, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!